to show you how to put on the DC connector onto our DC power cable for the WTM radios. Now there's a number of steps involved and we got to get them done in the right sequence. Before we put on the green connector, we need to put our weatherproof gland onto the cable. So we're going to slide this over the cable and down out of the way. The next step is to strip back the outer jacket of our cable. What we'll do is we'll make a cut just in the outer jacket, just enough to expose the inner shield. If we bend this a few times, it should break the insulation away. And then one longitudinal cut along the cable will help us get this outer jacket off. Once the braid has been exposed, we're going to pull this back, and that's going to expose our inner conductors. For this, what we're going to do is we're going to snip away this outer braid. So down at the bottom, you want to cut the braiding away. And once we've got all the strands cut, this should slide right off. Now, once our braid has been removed, you're going to notice this is our ground wire. This is an exposed 16 gauge stranded wire. What we want to do is we're going to twist this, because this is going to be our ground conductor for the earth ground. Get that twisted together. Next thing to do, there's a foil jacket on our two conductors for our DC voltage. We're going to remove this foil jacket. Okay, the next step, we're going to take some heat shrink tubing. We want to seal this up with some heat shrink tubing. So I've got a variety pack here. We'll take our first piece of heat shrink tubing. This is going to go over the entire cable assembly. So we'll slide this back and out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a smaller piece of heat shrink tubing on our ground conductor. So we'll take a piece of this. We're going to need to trim this back a little bit because we are going to want some exposed at the end. So now we'll slide this over. And we've got about an inch sticking out for right now. That's what we're going to work with. So at this point, we're going to heat shrink this down with our heat gun. Okay, once that's shrunk down, we're going to take our bigger piece of heat shrink and bring this back up. And what we want to do is cover up that exposed braiding down at the base here. And we'll slide it forward about 1/2 of an inch. We'll go ahead and shrink this part down. Okay, once the big heat shrink is shrunk down, we're now going to cut these ends so they're all the same length. It's important to have them at the same exact length when they go into the connector. So we'll trim them up. And then what we're wanting to do is we want to have exactly 1 centimeter of wire exposed. So I'm going to get out my ruler and we're going to measure 1 centimeter to make sure we've got the exact amount of insulation removed from our conductors. I've got a ruler here that's in metric. We're going to measure off exactly 1 centimeter. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to trim my ground wire since it's got more than 1 centimeter exposed. So we're just double checking we're exactly at 1 centimeter. And we're going to now bring the length of the rest of our wires to match, because again, they all have to be the same length as they go into the green connector. So now that they're the same length, again, we're going to strip off 1 centimeter of insulation. Double check that. It's better to go a little short, and then you can take off another millimeter or so. Now they're all exactly 1 centimeter exposed. And what we're going to do is now twist these so they're tightly twisted together. You want to make sure all your conductors are straight and a nice neat bundle. And what we're going to do is we're going to follow our wiring diagram, which is in the instruction manual. I've got one here on my phone so I'm able to see which holes the wires need to go into. And what we're going to do then is we're going to insert these wires, get our connector oriented in the correct position. I'll go ahead and put in my 2 conductors, which go in 2 holes side by side. We'll do the ground wire last. So what you want to do is you want to get them inserted into the holes, making sure there's no fray wires coming out. You'll feel them stop. Okay, so we've got our first 2 conductors in. You want to make sure that no wires are exposed and sticking out. And now we'll stick in our ground conductor. Okay, so we'll check again, make sure there's no exposed wires. Everything looks good on here. Now we're ready to install this on the radio. So the power port on the WTM radio has got 2 small flat blade screws. We're going to line those screws up, put our connector in, we'll tighten those down, and then we're going to bring our weatherproof gland back up and screw it on. Now this step we're going to actually do when we're up on the tower. This is how the connector installs into the radio.